Welcome to the Science video, Lower Secondary Science Brunei syllabus. Topic 4 Water. Subtopic Separation Technique on Paper Chromatography, Part 1. Students by now should know that there are 4 physical methods to separate mixtures, which is filtration, evaporation, distillation, and paper chromatography. We have already covered filtration, evaporation, distillation in the previous videos. In this video, we'll be focusing on paper chromatography. Describe the correct steps to carry out experiment on paper chromatography. So in this video, you'll be learning to identify the apparatus needed for chromatography and also to describe the procedure to carry out experiment on paper chromatography. Paper chromatography is used for separating small amount of mixtures. For example, mixture of inks and color dyes. Apparatus needed for paper chromatography are chromatography paper, test tube or beaker, solvent, example water or alcohol, and lastly pencil and ruler. Steps to set up experiment on paper chromatography. Step 1. Use your pencil and draw the baseline across the chromatography paper. So at the bottom of the chromatography paper, about 3 cm from the bottom, you draw a line using the pencil. Step 2. Make a spot on the baseline using ink. So you take your ink or your dye that you want to experiment on and put it on the baseline that you have just drawn. Step 3. Take a test tube or a beaker and fill in the beaker with alcohol. Step 4. Place the chromatography paper in the test tube or the beaker that you have just used and ensure that the solvent level does not touch the baseline. So as seen in the picture there, make sure your sample, ink or dye is not immersed in the solvent. And number 5, you can remove the chromatography paper from the test tube or the beaker when the alcohol or the solvent almost reach the top of the chromatography paper. You will see the ink or the dye that you have used slowly separated on the chromatography paper. So here you can see a fast speed picture of chromatography. You see that the ink that is used will slowly go upwards towards the top of the chromatography paper. What actually happened here is that the solvent will be absorbed by the chromatography paper and go upwards. Here under the green light, you can see that the chromatography paper will absorb the solvent and you can see the solvent go up together with the sample dye. So what is the difference between chromatography paper and chromatogram? Chromatography paper is just a plain paper of chromatography, no dye are put on it. Chromatogram is after the chromatography paper is used in the experiment, so that is chromatogram. Why the baseline is drawn in pencil and not in ink? This is because pencil is made of lead which is not soluble in solvent. Therefore, pencil is not soluble in solvent. Why the sample should not be immersed in the solvent? To prevent the ink from dissolving into the solvent. As you see in the short clip there, some of the ink are dissolving into the solvent. This is a wrong way to do the experiment. You have to make sure that the ink is not immersed into the solvent. I'll see you in the next video, chromatography part 2. Bye-bye.